Made by Hand Skateboards by Patricia Lacken. Made by Hand Skateboards by Patricia Lacken. If you've got wheels under your feet, you can fly. What freedom! You can swoosh on a skateboard. You can use it for tricks or for travel. Just what is a skateboard? In the following pages, you'll find out. You'll also get a behind-the-scenes look at a very special company where these wheeled wonders are made by hand. You'll find out why the man who created this business just had to put wheels under his own feet. What is a skateboard? A skateboard is a narrow board. It has 4 wheels attached to its underside. There are 3 main parts. There is the deck or top part, the part you put your feet on. The trucks are the metal pieces attached underneath. They hold the third part, the wheels. But a skateboard is so much more than its parts. History of the skateboard. No one really knows who made the first skateboard, but kids longed to have wheels under their feet. Even before the 1920s, kids nailed a wooden fruit crate onto a board, attached wheels to it, and took off. By the 1930s, companies were making scooter-style metal boards. Most people would pick California as the birthplace of skateboards. That's because there's a strong link between skateboarding and surfing. But California surfers could ride the waves only when there were waves. When the Pacific Ocean was calm, those surfers needed another way to keep their bodies moving. In the 1960s, these itching-to-go surfers would make their own skateboards. First, they'd find a plank of wood. Then, they would take the wheels off roller skates and nail them onto their board. Presto! They had their own skateboard. Soon, the sport spread far beyond California. The next 30 years brought improvements in the wheels and the board's decks. In 1972, a company named Cadillac created wheels made of a material called urethane. These wheels gripped the sidewalk surface and gave skateboarders a smoother ride. And instead of a straight slab of wood, many decks now have a raised front and/or back lip. This allows the rider to do more skating tricks. Over time, skateboarders kept coming up with new and interesting ways to use the board. Now, special parks are constructed to give skateboarders places to ride. Some skateboard designers want to make boards that help skateboarders try new tricks. Other designers want to bring back the beauty found in old-style boards. That's where Jake Eshelman comes in. He started a company called the Side Project Skateboards. He purposely makes his boards flat to honor the style of the 60s. Most important for Jake, he can proudly say, "My skateboards are made by me." They are all made by hand. How the skateboard is made. Jake goes through Hugh's pile of tossed-out wood strips. He prefers using hardwoods such as maple, cherry, and walnut. He looks at the wood's color and the designs that the wood's lines or grains make. For some steps, Jake uses his hands. For others, to save time, he uses machines. From start to finish, including drying time, it takes Jake approximately 1 week to make a skateboard. Walk into Jake's large gray-floored workspace and you'll see wood of every size and color. Wide wood planks and tall, narrow strips lean against one wall. Nearby is an L-shaped wooden work table. A white pegboard holds wrenches, pinchers, scrapers, and tape measures. Hanging vacuum hoses are ready to suck up the curdly wood chips that will fall to the floor. After putting on his safety goggles and gloves, Jake follows these steps. Step 1. He chooses strips of wood based on their color and grains and puts them out on a big table. At this point, the strips are not all the same length or thickness. He decides which strips look good together. He arranges them to form a pattern. Step 2, he examines each strip to make sure it is strong and has no cracks or splits. Step 3, He places those strips on their flat side on a table and sands down the long sides of each strip. Step 4. He makes sure these inner sides fit together. Then he glues the strips to one another, puts a clamp on them to hold them that way, and lets them dry overnight. Step 5. Jake uses a saw called a planer to make both sides of the board totally flat. He shaves down his skateboards so that they are 5/8 of an inch thick. Step 6. He sands down the board so that it is perfectly flat on both sides. Step 7. Jake uses a 30-inch long clear plastic pattern or template to cut out the skateboard shape from the wood he has sanded, glued, and planed. The clear plastic template lets him see the deck's wood colors and grains through it. He decides just where he should cut out the skateboard. He doesn't want to cut away an especially beautiful part of the wood. Step 8. He traces around the template with a pencil. With a band saw, he cuts out the board along the pencil lines. Step 9. Jake uses a tool called a router to round all the edges on the board. The rounded edges make the board easier to ride and to hold. Step 10. Jake then sands the edges down by hand to make sure they are perfectly smooth. Step 11. He takes another template and puts it on the underside of the board. This helps him mark where the wheel wells will go. The wheels should never hit the underside of the board. The wheel wells allow the rider to tilt the board without it hitting the wheel. Step 12. Then Jake uses a belt sander to make the 4 small rounded grooves, or wheel wells, in the underside of the wood. Step 13. Oops! When Jake first started making skateboards, his hand slipped when he was doing the 3rd wheel well. He'd accidentally made a swirl, like a fishtail. Jake liked the look. He turned his mistake around, and he now makes that swirl mark near the back wheels of all of his skateboards. It's his unofficial signature. Step 14. Next, he makes holes in the underside of the board where the trucks will be attached. Those screws will be flat or flush with the board. Step 15. Jake puts oil on both sides of the board. This oil makes the wood's color and grains really stand out, or pop. Step 16. Then Jake puts a waterproof varnish over the entire board and lets it dry. This takes from 3 to 6 days, depending on how damp or dry the weather is. Step 17. Jake takes the board to a laser studio where his company's official logo is cut into the board's varnish on its underside. Step 18. Then Jake sprays the top of the deck of his board with very finely crushed glass. This final coating makes it easier for the rider to grip the board with his or her feet and allows the beautiful wood to shine through. Step 19. Finally, Jake cuts out 2 small pieces of leather, which he places between the trucks and the wooden underside of the board. The leather absorbs shock for a smoother ride. He attaches the trucks and wheels. Jake's side project skateboard, made by hand with love and care, is ready to ride.